Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. You just kissed the wrong man. Elena immediately stepped back, her face burning with embarrassment. The man in front of her had green eyes, not the blue ones she expected. "I'm so sorry. I thought you were," she stammered, mortified. "My twin brother, Victor." He smiled, looking more amused than annoyed. "I'm Raphael Moreau." Elena wanted the ground to open up and swallow her whole. As Laura's last-minute maid of honor, she was supposed to greet the groom's brother after the ceremony. A quick kiss on the cheek, as was tradition. But in the confusion of guests leaving the church with 300 people moving around, she had gone to the wrong man. "I was going to greet you," she explained desperately. "Kiss on the cheek, you know, tradition. But in the confusion, I thought you were Victor. And when I leaned in, you turned, and our lips met." Raphael finished, still smiling in front of all of New York's elite. Elena looked around, cameras flashing, guests whispering, some people laughing, others looked shocked. "Oh no, Laura is going to kill me," she murmured, thinking of her bride. "Actually," Raphael said quietly, "you might have just saved me." "How?" "My father just closed the biggest deal of our company with Laura's father-in-law. The media is here. If this gets out as Moreau heir kissed by stranger, it becomes a scandal. And what do you suggest? That we're a couple. You're my girlfriend. You came with me to the wedding. You kissed me because, well, because you love me." Elena blinked several times. "You want me to lie. Temporarily. A few months until the dust settles. In exchange, I'll pay your professional expenses. I saw your work on this wedding. You're good." Elena thought about her struggling event planning business, the overdue bills, the opportunity to work for a family like the Moreau. "A few months," she repeated. "Six maximum. Some family dinners, social events, nothing complicated." Across the church, Laura waved at Elena with a radiant smile, clearly not having seen the disastrous kiss. "Okay," Elena said quickly. "But if Laura finds out we lied at her wedding, she won't find out." Raphael offered his arm. "Raphael Moreau, your new fake boyfriend, Elena Vasquez." She took his arm, trying to ignore how firm it felt. "Your new whatever this is, girlfriend," he corrected, guiding her toward the photographers. "And now, smile, we have to sell this story." "So, you're the famous Elena who stole the show," said Victoria Moreau, the family matriarch, observing Elena with sharp eyes while stirring her coffee with a silver spoon. It was Monday, and Elena was in the Moreau family office, a penthouse in downtown Manhattan that looked more like a palace. Raphael had insisted she meet the family to make everything more believable. "Mom, it wasn't quite like that," Raphael began, but Victoria raised her hand. "Let the girl speak, Raphael. I want to hear from her." Elena straightened her shoulders. Years of organizing events for New York's elite had taught her how to deal with intimidating matriarchs. "Mrs. Moreau," it was a misunderstanding, but she hesitated, seeing Raphael make an almost imperceptible gesture. "But it was the best misunderstanding of my life." "Interesting," Victoria murmured, then turned to a dark-haired man in his 40s who was eating peanut butter straight from the jar. "Antonio, stop ruining your diet." "Aunt Victoria, it's cheat day," Antonio replied, not stopping. "By the way, Elena, do you organize children's parties? My daughter wants a Batman party, but with a princess theme, too. Is that possible?" "Batman princess?" Elena laughed. "Of course, I once did a Spider-Man mermaid party. The key is finding the common element, heroines who save the day." "She's good," said a female voice. Elena turned to see a woman in her 50s with a tablet in her hand. "I'm Isabel, Raphael's sister. I work with digital marketing. Your Instagram numbers are impressive for someone who's not an influencer. I post the events I organize," Elena explained, feeling strangely warmed by the approval. "Raphael," Victoria said suddenly, "Elena will come to Sunday family dinner." "Of course she will," Raphael replied, but Elena caught a hint of panic in his voice. "Sunday?" Elena asked. "Monthly mandatory dinner," Antonio explained, finally putting down the jar. "All Moreaus, all boyfriends and girlfriends, all children. It's been a family tradition since Grandma Moreau arrived from Italy. My mother-in-law instituted this 60 years ago," Victoria said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We've never missed a Sunday." "Never." Elena felt Raphael take her hand under the table. His palms were sweaty. "It would be my pleasure," she said, squeezing his hand back. "Excellent," Victoria stood up. Isabel, prepare the media campaign. Antonio, you're responsible for briefing Elena on family traditions. Raphael? Yes, Mom. Don't mess this up. She's the first girlfriend you've brought here who didn't make me want to move to another country. After Victoria left, Antonio whistled softly. Dude. She liked her. That's scary. Why? Elena asked. Because, Isabel replied, not looking up from her tablet, now she's going to want you two to get married. Elena felt Raphael's hand tighten around hers, and she wondered if this fake relationship was about to become much more complicated than either of them had bargained for. I need to take you shopping, Raphael said on Thursday, appearing at Elena's office with a determined expression. My clothes are fine, thank you, Elena replied, not looking up from the vendor list she was reviewing. Elena, he approached her desk. Sunday is the dinner. My family is intense, and my mom already posted about you on the family Instagram. Family Instagram? Don't ask. Just trust me, okay? Let me help you. Elena finally looked at him. There was something genuinely worried in his expression. Raphael, I've organized events for the Morrison family, the Andersons, the Castros. I know how to dress to impress. It's not about impressing, he said quietly. It's about surviving. 2 hours later, Elena was at Bloomingdale's, watching Raphael systematically reject everything she chose. Too formal, too casual, too blue. Problem with blue. My ex-fiancé wore a lot of blue. My mom will notice. Elena stopped searching through the racks. Ex-fiancé. Raphael was quiet for a moment. Gabriella. We broke up 8 months ago. Let's say she had other priorities. Like what? Like my father's business partner who coincidentally was married at the time. Ouch. Elena winced. That explains a lot. Explains what? Why you agreed to this craziness. Why your mom liked me. Why you organized socks by fabric control mechanism after emotional chaos. Raphael stared at her. Do you do therapy? No. I organize events. You learn to read people very quickly. Elena picked up a dark green dress. This one? Green is neutral, elegant, but not trying too hard to impress. And it matches your eyes. My eyes, Raphael. If we're going to fake date, I need to at least notice the color of your eyes. While Elena tried on the dress, Raphael stayed outside the fitting room talking on his phone. She could hear him talking to someone. No, Antonio, she's not like Gabriella. What do you mean too obvious? No, I'm not falling for her. It's fake. Remember? Stop it. Elena looked at herself in the mirror. The dress fit perfectly, maybe too perfectly for something that was fake. Raphael, she called, stepping out of the fitting room. What do you think? He hung up the phone immediately and turned. The expression on his face made Elena's heart skip a beat. Perfect, he said, and his voice came out a little. Completely perfect. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Elena felt something strange in her chest, like she'd forgotten how to breathe. Raphael. Raphael Moreau. They turned. A blonde woman with a professional camera was pointing at them. I'm from Vogue magazine. Can I ask a few questions about your new girlfriend? Elena felt panic rise in her throat, but Raphael immediately pulled her close, wrapping his arm around her waist. Sure, he said with a charming smile. Elena, sweetheart. This is Camila from Vogue. Sweetheart, Elena whispered, but he squeezed her waist lightly. You two are very cute together, Camila said. Taking photos. How did you meet? She kissed me at a friend's wedding, Raphael replied. And Elena almost choked. Love at first sight, wasn't it, darling? Elena looked at him, saw the playful gleam in his eyes, and suddenly felt more confident. More like madness at first sight, she replied, making Raphael laugh genuinely. But sometimes madness is the best part. That's so romantic, Camila gushed, taking more photos. And Elena, what do you do? I'm an event planner. I organize people's dream celebrations. How perfect. A match made in heaven. When's the wedding? Elena felt Raphael tense beside her, but she smiled sweetly. We're taking it one day at a time, she said. Good things are worth waiting for. After Camila left, they stood in awkward silence for a moment. That went well, Raphael said finally. Too well, Elena replied, still feeling the warmth of his arm around her waist. Your family is going to see this in the magazine. Is that a problem? Elena looked at him at the way he was still standing close to her, at how natural it had felt to play the loving girlfriend. I don't know, she said honestly. Is it? Sunday arrived with the kind of crisp October weather that made Manhattan look like a postcard. Elena stood in front of her bathroom mirror, adjusting the green dress for the third time and trying to calm her nerves. Her phone buzzed with a text from Raphael. "On my way up. You're going to be amazing." 20 minutes later, they were in his Tesla heading toward the Upper East Side, and Elena could practically feel the tension radiating from him. "Okay, quick family briefing," Raphael said, navigating through traffic. "My dad, Miguel, is the patriarch. He built the company from nothing, so he respects hard work, but doesn't tolerate nonsense. He'll test you, but not maliciously." "What kind of test?" "Business questions, probably. He likes to understand how people think." Raphael paused at a red light. "My mom, you've met. She seems sweet, but she's actually the most dangerous one. She can spot a fake relationship from a mile away." Elena's stomach dropped. "Great. No pressure. Antonio, you'll love. He's basically a giant kid who happens to be a brilliant architect. Isabel is the family diplomat. She'll help smooth things over if needed. And then there's my cousin Laura." "Wait, Laura. Like bride Laura? Different Laura?" "My cousin Laura is, well, she's a social media influencer with 3 million followers and zero filter. She'll probably live tweet the entire dinner." The Moreau family estate was a sprawling brownstone that screamed, "Old money." As they walked up the steps, Elena noticed Raphael's hand was slightly shaking. "Hey," she said softly, catching his arm. "We've got this. Remember, we're madly in love." He looked down at her, and for a moment his expression was so intense, it made her breath catch. "Right, madly in love." Victoria opened the door before they could knock. Wearing an elegant navy dress and a smile that could cut glass, "Elena, you look absolutely stunning. That dress is perfect. Very Jackie Kennedy." "Thank you, Mrs. Moreau. You have a beautiful home. Please call me Victoria. Come. Everyone's dying to meet you properly." The living room was like something out of Architectural Digest. High ceilings, original artwork, and about 15 people scattered across expensive furniture. Elena felt every eye turn to her as they entered. "Everyone," Victoria announced. "This is Elena, Raphael's girlfriend." A chorus of hellos and waves followed, but Elena's attention was caught by a stunning brunette in the corner who was definitely filming them with her phone. "That's Laura," Raphael whispered. "Just smile and wave." Miguel Moreau emerged from what looked like a library, wearing a perfectly tailored suit despite it being Sunday evening. He was distinguished in the way that only came from decades of success, with silver hair and the same green eyes as Raphael. "Elena," he said, extending his hand with a firm grip, "welcome to our home. I hope Raphael has been treating you well." "Very well, sir. Thank you for having me." "Miguel, please. We're family here." He gestured toward the dining room. "Shall we? I'm eager to hear about your business." Dinner was served in a dining room that could easily seat 20 with crystal chandeliers and paintings that Elena was pretty sure belonged in museums. She found herself seated between Raphael and a woman who introduced herself as Sophia, Antonio's wife. "So, Elena," Miguel said after the first course was served, "Raphael tells me you're an event planner. What drew you to that field?" Elena dabbed her mouth with the linen napkin, grateful for the preparation. "I've always loved bringing people's visions to life. There's something magical about taking someone's dream, whether it's a wedding, a milestone birthday, or a corporate celebration, and making it reality. It's part psychology, part logistics, and part pure creativity." "Interesting perspective," said Isabel from across the table. "What's the most challenging event you've ever organized?" "A wedding for 500 people with a 3-week timeline," Elena replied without hesitation. "The original planner had a family emergency, and I got called in. The bride wanted a winter wonderland theme in July in Central Park. We had to create artificial snow that wouldn't melt, find 500 white roses in the middle of summer, and coordinate with the city for permits." "Did you pull it off?" Antonio asked, genuinely curious. Elena smiled. "The bride cried when she saw it. Happy tears. That's when I know I've done my job right." "That's impressive." Miguel nodded approvingly. "Problem-solving under pressure is a valuable skill in any business. Tell me, what do you think about the luxury real estate market in Manhattan right now?" Raphael tensed slightly beside her, but Elena felt oddly confident. "Honestly, I think there's a gap in the market. Most luxury developments focus on amenities like gyms and rooftops, but they're missing the human element." "Explain." "Well, when I plan events in these spaces, I notice that people crave community. They want beautiful spaces. Yes, but they also want to belong somewhere. The most successful luxury buildings are the ones that feel like home, not just expensive hotels." Miguel leaned forward with interest. And how would you create that sense of community? Curated events for starters, not just generic wine tastings, but things that bring residents together around shared interests. Cooking classes, book clubs, art workshops make the building a place where relationships form, not just where people sleep. She has a point, Isabel said, pulling out her phone. I could create digital campaigns around community building. The Instagram potential alone would be huge. Laura chimed in from the corner, still filming. Authentic community content always goes viral. Elena felt Raphael's hand find hers under the table, squeezing gently. When she glanced at him, he was looking at her with something that seemed like genuine admiration. Elena, Victoria said from the head of the table, tell us about your family. What do your parents do? My mother was a teacher before she retired, and my father owns a small auto repair shop in Queens. They taught me that it doesn't matter what work you do, it matters how you do it. Good values, Miguel nodded. Hard work builds character. Speaking of hard work, Antonio said with a grin, Elena, I have to ask, how do you deal with Raphael's sock obsession? The table erupted in laughter, and Elena felt some of the tension ease. Actually, I find it endearing, she said, glancing at Raphael with fake affection that felt surprisingly real. He brings the same attention to detail to everything he does. It's one of the things I love about him. One of the things, Victoria asked with a raised eyebrow. Elena felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she pushed forward. He's thoughtful. When he found out I was stressed about a deadline last week, he showed up at my office with coffee and just stayed. Didn't try to fix anything, just kept me company. This was actually true. Raphael had done exactly that 3 days ago, claiming he needed to maintain their cover, but staying long past any photographer's interest, and he's braver than he thinks, Elena continued, surprised by her own honesty. Starting this relationship with me wasn't exactly safe. I'm not from his world. I don't have connections or money to offer, but he took the chance anyway. The table was quiet for a moment, and Elena realized she'd said too much. These weren't things you said about a fake boyfriend. Well, Victoria said finally, raising her wineglass, to taking chances on love, to love, the table echoed, and Elena felt Raphael's eyes on her as she lifted her glass. After dinner, while the others moved to the living room for coffee and dessert, Miguel pulled Elena aside. Walk with me, he said, leading her to the library. The room was lined floor to ceiling with books with a fireplace crackling in the corner. It smelled like leather and old paper and success. Elena, can I speak frankly? Of course. Raphael has been different since Gabriella. Closed off, careful. I was beginning to worry he'd never trust anyone again. Elena's heart sank. She was about to lie to this kind man about his son's happiness. But watching him tonight, Miguel continued, watching how he looks at you, how he laughs at your jokes, how he lights up when you're talking. I haven't seen him this happy in years. Mr. Moreau. Miguel, I know what you're thinking. We're from different worlds, different backgrounds. But love doesn't care about any of that. He smiled warmly. My Victoria came from nothing when I met her. Her father was a janitor. Her mother cleaned houses. My parents were horrified. What changed their minds? Time, and seeing how happy she made me. Miguel placed a gentle hand on Elena's shoulder. Don't let anyone make you feel like you don't belong here. If my son loves you, that's all that matters to me. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. If only he knew the truth. Thank you, she managed. That means more than you know. When they returned to the living room, Elena found Raphael deep in conversation with Laura, who was showing him something on her phone. The Vogue article went live. Laura announced to the room, it's already got 50,000 likes. You two are officially New York's hottest new couple. Elena's stomach lurched as Laura turned the phone toward her. There they were in Bloomingdale's, Raphael's arm around her waist, both of them laughing. The headline read, Love in Bloom. Moreau airs sweet romance with event planner. We look good, Raphael said quietly beside her. Too good, Elena whispered back. What was that? Victoria asked. I said we look very good. Elena corrected quickly, forcing a smile. As the evening wound down and they prepared to leave, Victoria pulled Elena into a tight hug. Welcome to the family, dear, she whispered. I can see why Raphael fell for you. In the car afterward, they drove in silence for several blocks before Raphael finally spoke. You are incredible tonight. Your dad is wonderful. Your whole family is Elena. About what you said at dinner. Which part? All of it, but especially about me being brave for taking a chance on you. Elena stared out the window at the passing city lights. I was just selling the story. Were you? She turned to look at him. Weren't you? Raphael pulled over to the curb and put the car in park. I don't know anymore. They sat there in the semi-darkness, the weight of that admission hanging between them. Elena could hear her heart beating in her ears. Raphael, I know this started as fake. I know we agreed on 6 months, no complications. But sitting there tonight listening to my family talk about us like we're real, watching you fit in like you've always belonged there, we can't, Elena said softly. This was supposed to be simple. Nothing about you is simple, Elena Vasquez. He reached over and touched her face gently, and Elena felt herself lean into his palm despite every rational thought in her head. This is dangerous, she whispered. I know your family thinks we're real. I know. If we mess this up, I know. His thumb traced her cheekbone. But what if we don't mess it up? What if this is the best mistake we've ever made? Elena closed her eyes, feeling the last of her defenses crumbling. What are you asking me? I'm asking if you want to stop pretending. Elena stared at Raphael in the dim light of the car, her heart hammering against her ribs. His question hung in the air like a challenge, like a promise, like a threat to everything safe and predictable in her world. She started, then stopped. What was she supposed to say? That yes, somewhere between organizing his socks by fabric and watching him charm her parents over dinner, she'd started falling for him, that the fake relationship had begun to feel more real than anything else in her life. You don't have to answer now, Raphael said softly, his hand still cupping her face. But Elena, I need you to know that what I'm feeling, it's not part of any contract. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed with an incoming call. She glanced down to see Laura's name. Bride Laura, not cousin Laura. I should take this, she said reluctantly, pulling away from his touch. Elena. Laura's voice was excited even through the phone. Did you see the Vogue article? You look absolutely gorgeous. I can't believe you didn't tell me you were dating Raphael Moreau. Elena felt Raphael watching her intently as she tried to navigate the conversation. It's new, she managed. New girl. The way he was looking at you in those photos, that is not new. That is deep serious. Meet my family, love. I'm so happy for you. Listen, I know this is crazy, but David and I are having our 1-month anniversary party next weekend. Small thing, just close friends, and we absolutely have to have you both there. Please say yes. Elena looked at Raphael, who was close enough to hear every word. He nodded slightly. Of course, Elena heard herself saying, We'd love to come. Perfect. It's Saturday at 7. Cocktail attire. Oh, and Elena, I'm so glad you found someone who makes you glow like that. You deserve all the happiness in the world. After she hung up, they sat in silence for a moment. Another performance, Elena said quietly. Is that what you want it to be? Before she could answer, Raphael's phone rang. He glanced at it with a frown. It's my mom. At 11 p.m. That's never good. Raphael, darling. Victoria's voice filled the car through the Bluetooth. Are you with Elena? Yes, Mom. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Exactly. But we need to talk, both of you. Can you come back to the house? Elena and Raphael exchanged glances. Is everything okay? Elena asked. Oh, it's fine, dear. But after you left, Miguel and I had a long conversation. And well, we have a proposition for you both. It's rather important. 20 minutes later, they were back in the Moreau living room, which had been cleared of all the other family members. Miguel was pouring brandy while Victoria sat elegantly on the sofa, her hands folded in her lap like a queen about to make a royal decree. Sit, please, Miguel said, handing them each a crystal glass. What we're about to discuss stays in this room. Elena felt her stomach drop. Had they figured out the relationship was fake? Was this some kind of intervention? Victoria and I have been talking, Miguel continued, settling into his leather armchair. About you two. About the family, about the future of our business. Dad, Raphael started, but Miguel held up a hand. Let me finish. Raphael, you know that I've been thinking about succession planning. You're brilliant, but you've always been more interested in the creative side of development than the business side. I like designing spaces that matter, Raphael said defensively, and that's exactly why you need a partner who understands the commercial aspects. Victoria interjected smoothly. Someone who understands people, markets, what makes spaces livable and profitable. Elena felt like she was missing something crucial. I'm sorry, but what does this have to do with me? Miguel smiled. Everything, my dear. Tonight, watching you talk about community building, about creating spaces where people want to live. You have vision. Business vision. We want to offer you a position, Victoria said simply, Head of Lifestyle and Community Development for Moreau Properties. Elena's brandy glass slipped slightly in her hand. What? A new division, Miguel explained, focused on creating the kind of communities you described tonight, working with Rafael to design not just buildings but neighborhood experiences. The salary would be substantial, Victoria added. 6 figures to start with profit sharing and full benefits. You'd have your own team, your own budget. Elena looked at Rafael, who seemed as shocked as she was. I don't understand. You barely know me. We know enough, Miguel said firmly. We know you built a successful business from nothing. We know you understand luxury markets. We know you can handle pressure and deliver results. And most importantly, you make our son happy. Victoria finished, happier than we've seen him in years. Elena felt like the room was spinning. A job with the Morios would change everything. Her career, her financial situation, her entire life. But it would also make leaving impossible when the 6 months were up. There's one condition, Miguel said. And Elena's heart sank. Here it was. The catch. What condition? Rafael asked wearily. Victoria smiled brilliantly. The engagement party needs to be spectacular. I'm sorry, what? Elena managed. Oh, didn't we mention? Victoria looked genuinely surprised. We're announcing your engagement at Laura's anniversary party next weekend. The brandy glass actually did slip from Elena's hand this time, shattering on the hardwood floor. Our engagement? Well, yes, dear, Victoria said as if it were the most natural thing in the world. You've been together for months now, haven't you? And the way you two look at each other, Miguel and I were engaged after 3 months. When you know, but we haven't. Rafael started. Haven't what? Haven't talked about marriage? Miguel waved dismissively. Son, I've been watching people for 60 years. You're in love with this woman. She's in love with you. Stop overthinking it. Elena felt like she was having an out-of-body experience. Mrs. Moreau Victoria, this is very generous. But no buts, Victoria said firmly, standing up. I'm calling the jeweler first thing Monday morning. Something elegant, but not ostentatious. Emerald cut, I think, to match your eyes, Rafael. And Elena, we'll need to discuss the wedding venue. I'm thinking next spring. Perhaps in the Hamptons. Mom, Rafael stood up abruptly. Stop, please. Victoria looked genuinely confused. Stop what, darling? We, Elena and I need to talk about this privately. Of course you do, Miguel said, rising as well. Big décisions require discussion. Take all the time you need. But Elena, do think seriously about the job offer. It's not contingent on the engagement, though I admit the timing works out beautifully. The position is yours, regardless. Victoria added kindly, we genuinely believe you'd be brilliant at it. After his parents left them alone in the living room, Elena and Rafael sat in stunned silence. The sound of the grandfather clock ticking seemed unnaturally loud. So, Rafael said finally, that happened. They want us to get engaged, Elena said numbly. Next weekend, in front of all your friends, and they offered you a job. A 6-figure job with my company, where we'd work together every day. They looked at each other, the magnitude of the situation settling over them like a heavy blanket. Rafael, we can't. This is insane. We agreed to 6 months of fake dating. Not this. I know, he ran a hand through his hair. But Elena, the job offer, that's real. That's not about us being together. They genuinely think you'd be good at it. But if I take it, and then we break up in a few months, it would look bad for both of us. Elena stood up and began pacing. This is a disaster. We should have seen this coming. Your mother has been planning our wedding since Sunday dinner, hasn't she? Probably since the moment she met you, Rafael admitted. What are we going to do? Rafael was quiet for a long moment. Staring into his brandy, what if we didn't fight it? What do you mean? What if we got engaged? Really engaged? Elena stopped pacing. Rafael, listen to me, he said, standing and walking over to her. I know this is crazy. I know it's not what we planned. But Elena, this isn't fake anymore. Not for me. Just because you have feelings doesn't mean we should get married. Why not? Because people don't get married after knowing each other for 2 weeks. My grandparents got married after knowing each other for 10 days. They were married for 57 years. That was different. That was real. This is real. Rafael's voice rose slightly. Then he took a breath and spoke more quietly. Elena, what we have is real. The way you fit with my family, the way I feel when I'm with you, the way you challenge me and support me and make me want to be better. That's real. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. But what if it's not? What if we're just caught up in the pretending? Then we'll figure it out together. He stepped closer. But Elena, I don't think we're pretending anymore." She looked up at him, seeing the sincerity in his green eyes, feeling the warmth radiating from his body, so close to hers. "The job," she said weakly. "Take it. You'd be amazing at it. And if things don't work out between us, well, we're both adults. We can handle it professionally. Your parents would hate me if we broke up. My parents adore you. That won't change." Elena closed her eyes, trying to think clearly, but all she could focus on was the way Raphael smelled like expensive cologne and coffee, the way his presence made her feel safe and excited at the same time. "This is insane," she whispered. "The best things usually are." She opened her eyes to find him watching her intently. "If we do this, if we get engaged for real, things change. Everything changes. I know we'll have to plan a wedding, deal with media attention, navigate family dynamics as a real couple. I know, and if it doesn't work out, it will work out. You can't know that." "You're right," he said softly. "I can't know that. But Elena, I can't know that it won't work either. And I'd rather risk my heart on something real than spend the rest of my life wondering what if." Elena felt something shift inside her chest, like a door opening that she'd kept locked for years. "Raphael, you don't have to decide tonight," he said quickly. "But will you think about it? Really think about it?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. "Come on," he said gently. "Let me take you home." The drive back to her apartment was quiet, both of them lost in thought. When Raphael walked her to her door, they stood in the hallway for a moment, neither quite ready to say goodnight. "Elena," he said finally, "whatever you decide about the engagement, about the job, about us, I want you to know that these past 2 weeks have been the happiest I've been in years. Raphael, I'm not trying to pressure you. I just wanted you to know." He leaned down and kissed her forehead gently, a gesture so tender it made her heart ache. "Good night, Elena. Good night." She watched him walk away until the elevator doors closed, then leaned against her apartment door, trying to process everything that had happened. A fake relationship that had become real feelings, a job offer that could change her career, an engagement that could change her life, and a man who was offering her everything she'd never let herself dream of having. Elena slid down the door until she was sitting on the floor, finally letting the tears come, because the terrifying truth was she was already in love with him, had been falling for days, maybe since that moment in Bloomingdale's when he'd looked at her like she was perfect. And if she was honest with herself, the idea of planning a life with Raphael didn't scare her nearly as much as the idea of walking away from him. Her phone buzzed with a text from him. "Sweet dreams. Tomorrow is a new day. No pressure." Elena smiled through her tears and typed back, "Thank you for everything." His response came immediately. "Thank you for being you." She sat there on her hallway floor for another few minutes, holding her phone and thinking about emerald cut rings and spring weddings, and the way Raphael's eyes lit up when she laughed. Maybe some risks were worth taking after all. Elena spent the entire next week in a state of controlled panic, oscillating between euphoria and terror with the regularity of a metronome. Every morning, she'd wake up determined to call Raphael and tell him they needed to end this madness before it spiraled further out of control. Every evening she'd fall asleep, clutching her phone, unable to dial his number, her heart racing with the possibility that maybe, just maybe, this crazy thing could actually work. The job offer sat on her kitchen counter in the form of an official contract that Victoria had messengered over on Tuesday morning, along with a handwritten note on cream-colored stationery. "Darling, please don't overthink this. Sometimes the best opportunities come disguised as the scariest ones. Trust your instincts. They've served you well so far. All my love, Victoria." Elena had read the contract so many times she could recite it from memory. Head of Lifestyle and Community Development, $150,000. Starting salary with annual reviews and performance bonuses. Full health, dental, and vision benefits. Profit sharing that could potentially double her income. Company car, a BMW, according to the footnote. An operating budget of $500,000 for the first year alone. It was everything she'd dreamed of professionally wrapped up in the most complicated personal situation of her life. The position description read like someone had looked inside her head and written down her deepest professional fantasies. She'd be responsible for creating community programming for all Moreau Properties developments, designing spaces that fostered connection and belonging. She'd work with architects and designers to ensure that luxury didn't come at the expense of livability. She'd curate events, manage resident relations, and basically get paid an enormous amount of money to do what she'd been doing on a smaller scale for years. It was perfect. It was terrifying. It was impossible to separate from Raphael. By Friday afternoon, she was a complete mess. She'd reorganized her entire office twice, moving furniture and filing systems with the manic energy of someone trying to control at least one aspect of her life. She deep-cleaned her apartment until it looked like a magazine spread, scrubbing grout with a toothbrush and alphabetizing her spice rack. She'd stress-baked enough cookies to feed a small army: chocolate chip, oatmeal, raisin, snickerdoodles, and a batch of experimental lavender shortbread that had turned out surprisingly well. Her assistant, Jenny, had taken one look at her, frantically reorganizing the supply closet, and announced she was going home early before Elena reorganized her into a different profession entirely. "Elena," Jenny had said, gathering her purse and jacket with the determined efficiency of someone fleeing a natural disaster, "I don't know what's going on with you and that gorgeous rich guy, but whatever it is, you need to figure it out before you reorganize yourself into a nervous breakdown." That's when her phone rang with a call from Isabel Moreau. "Elena, honey, I hope you don't mind me calling directly." Isabel's warm voice filled her apartment, cutting through the anxiety like a knife through butter. "But I wanted to check in about tomorrow night. Are you nervous about the party?" Elena almost laughed out loud. Nervous didn't begin to cover it. She was operating at a level of anxiety that probably required medical intervention. "A little," she managed. "Well, don't be. Everyone who's met you absolutely adores you. And honestly, the family hasn't been this excited about anything in years. Antonio has been practicing his best man speech. Yes, he's already appointed himself. And Laura, cousin Laura, has already planned the entire engagement photo shoot for her Instagram. She's created a whole aesthetic board and everything. Isabel, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart." Elena took a deep breath, settling onto her sofa with a cookie she didn't remember picking up. "Do you think I'm right for Raphael?" Honestly, there was a pause, and then Isabel's voice came back gentler, more thoughtful. "Elena, can I tell you something about Raphael and Gabriella? You don't have to. I want to see." Gabriella was perfect on paper. Right family, right connections, right everything. Her father was a senator. Her mother was on the board of the Met. She went to the right schools, knew the right people, said all the right things at dinner parties. Elena felt her stomach tighten. That sounded like everything she wasn't. But she never saw Raphael for who he really was. Isabel continued. She saw the Moreau name, the money, the status. She saw a good-looking accessory for her political ambitions. She never noticed that he alphabetizes his books, or that he's afraid of butterflies, or that he volunteers at the children's hospital every other Saturday. Elena's heart stuttered. He volunteers at a children's hospital, Memorial Sloan Kettering, for 3 years now. Reads to the kids, plays games with them, helps with art therapy sessions. He's never mentioned it, has he? No, that's my point. Exactly. Gabriella never knew that side of him because she never bothered to look beyond the surface. She was planning their wedding as a political networking event, choosing venues based on guest capacity rather than meaning. But you, Elena, the way you two are together, it's like watching him come alive again. You see him, the real him, and he sees the real you, too. After Isabel hung up, Elena sat in her kitchen staring at the contract and thinking about Raphael reading to sick children, about him organizing his socks by fabric. Not because he was obsessive, but because small acts of control helped him feel centered in a world that often felt chaotic. About the way he'd listened to her father explain car engines for an hour, genuinely interested, asking follow-up questions about torque and transmission fluid, not just being polite. Maybe Isabel was right. Maybe she did see the real Raphael. And maybe, just maybe, the real Raphael was worth every terrifying risk. Saturday evening arrived with the kind of perfect autumn weather that made New York feel like a movie set. All golden light and crisp air that smelled like possibilities. Elena stood in front of her full-length mirror, adjusting the navy blue dress she'd chosen for Laura's anniversary party. It was elegant, but not flashy. Sophisticated, but not trying too hard. The kind of dress that said, "I belong here," without shouting it from the rooftops. She'd paired it with nude heels that added just enough height to make her feel confident, and her grandmother's pearl bracelet for luck. Her hair was pulled back in a low chignon that had taken 3 YouTube tutorials to master, and her makeup was flawless, thanks to a panic-induced trip to Sephora, where she'd let the sales associate talk her into a full makeover. Raphael arrived at exactly 7, wearing a charcoal suit that made his green eyes look even more intense and his shoulders even broader. He carried a small velvet box in his hand, and Elena's breath caught in her throat. "Before you panic," he said quickly, noting her expression, "this isn't what you think it is. What is it?" He opened the box to reveal a pair of emerald earrings that perfectly matched her dress, the stones catching the light like captured starlight. "I thought if we're going to do this, if we're going to announce an engagement tonight, you should have something that makes you feel beautiful. Raphael, they're gorgeous, but I can't accept. They were my grandmother's," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of family history. "She left them to me with very specific instructions to give them to the woman I wanted to marry. And Elena, whether this started as fake or not, whether you say yes tonight or walk away tomorrow morning, you're that woman." Elena felt tears prick her eyes as she let him fasten the earrings, his fingers gentle against her neck. She could smell his cologne, that mixture of cedar and bergamot, and something uniquely him that had become as familiar as her own perfume. "Raphael, I need to tell you something. Can it wait until after the party?" His voice was carefully controlled, but she could hear the vulnerability underneath. "Because if you're about to break my heart, I'd rather have one more evening of pretending you might say yes." The raw honesty in his words broke something open in her chest. "I'm not going to break your heart. Promise?" She turned to face him, reaching up to straighten his tie, even though it was already perfect. "I promise." The anniversary party was being held at the Rainbow Room because Laura and David had apparently decided that if you were going to celebrate 1 month of marriage, you might as well do it with the best view in Manhattan and enough champagne to float a small yacht. The room was filled with New York's young elite, trust fund babies with designer clothes and practiced smiles, artists whose work sold for more than most people's houses, entrepreneurs who'd turned apps into empires, and society darlings whose job descriptions consisted entirely of looking beautiful and being photographed. Everyone was dressed to kill, and already 3 drinks into what promised to be a legendary evening. Elena and Raphael made their entrance fashionably late, arriving just as the cocktail hour was hitting its stride. She immediately felt every eye in the room turn toward them like sunflowers following the sun. Word of their relationship had clearly spread far beyond the Vogue article. She could practically hear the whispered conversations and see phones being discreetly positioned for candid photos. There they are. Laura rushed over, resplendent in a white cocktail dress that probably cost more than Elena's monthly rent and sparkling with enough diamonds to blind a pilot. "The couple of the hour. Everyone's been asking about you two. Congratulations on 1 month," Elena said, hugging her friend and meaning it. "You look absolutely radiant." "Thank you. Marriage agrees with me apparently. And you look absolutely stunning. Those earrings are gorgeous." "Are they new? Family heirloom?" Raphael said smoothly, his hand finding the small of Elena's back, in a gesture that had become second nature. "Oh my goodness, that's so romantic." Laura clasped her hands together like a child on Christmas morning. "David, come here. You have to hear this." As Laura dragged her husband over to hear about the earrings, Elena caught sight of Victoria and Miguel near the windows. Deep in conversation with a distinguished older couple she recognized as the Astors, Victoria caught her eye and smiled, raising her champagne glass in a small salute that somehow managed to convey both approval and anticipation. "They're proud of you," Raphael murmured in her ear, his breath warm against her skin. "They don't know the truth, don't they?" He guided her toward the bar, navigating through clusters of conversations about art auctions and charity galas. "Elena, what if the truth isn't what we think it is?" Before she could ask what he meant, they were interrupted by a tall blonde woman in a red dress that screamed expensive and dangerous. She moved with the predatory grace of someone who'd learned early that beauty was a weapon to be wielded with precision. "Raphael," the woman purred, air kissing his cheeks with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd perfected the art of fake intimacy. "How lovely to see you again." Elena felt Raphael tense beside her like a wire pulled taut. "Gabriella." So this was the infamous ex-fiancé. Elena could see why she'd turned heads and stopped traffic. Gabriella was stunning in that effortless way that came from good genes, better skincare, and a personal trainer who probably cost more than most people's cars. She had the kind of blonde hair that looked natural but definitely wasn't. Blue eyes like Arctic ice and bone structure that belonged on magazine covers. But there was something calculating in those blue eyes. Something sharp and assessing that made Elena instinctively step closer to Raphael. "And you must be the famous Elena," Gabriella continued, extending a perfectly manicured hand with nails that probably required weekly maintenance. "I've heard so much about you." "All good things, I hope," Elena replied politely, accepting the handshake and noting that Gabriella's grip was just a little too firm, lasting just a little too long. Oh, absolutely, though, I have to say I was surprised when I heard about your relationship. It's so sudden, isn't it? I mean, just a few weeks ago, nobody had ever heard of you, and now you're practically family. The words were delivered with a smile, but Elena could hear the venom underneath. This wasn't small talk. This was a declaration of war. When you know, Raphael said firmly, his arm tightening around Elena's waist in a gesture that was both protective and possessive. Gabriella's smile was sharp as a blade and twice as cutting. Well, I just wanted to wish you both luck. Raphael can be challenging to love. All those little quirks and habits, the way he needs everything just so, the way he overthinks every decision, the way he retreats into himself when things get difficult. But I'm sure you'll figure it out. The subtext was clear. I know him better than you ever will, and you're not equipped for what you're getting into. Elena felt something fierce and protective rise in her chest. Actually, she said sweetly, I find his quirks charming, the way he organizes everything just so because it helps him think clearly, how he notices details other people miss because he genuinely cares about getting things right, how gentle he is with people and things he cares about because he understands that careful attention is a form of love. It takes a special kind of person to appreciate those qualities, instead of trying to change them. Gabriella's eyes narrowed slightly, the mask slipping just enough to show the calculation underneath. How wonderful that you're so understanding. I suppose different people have different tolerance levels for complexity. I don't see complexity, Elena replied, her voice staying sweet even as her eyes hardened. I see someone worth understanding. Ladies, Raphael interrupted smoothly, his voice carrying a warning that Gabriella clearly recognized. I think I see the Andersons by the window. Elena, shall we go say hello? As they walked away, Elena could feel Gabriella's eyes burning into her back like lasers. The encounter had lasted maybe 3 minutes, but it felt like she'd just survived a master class in psychological warfare. That was, Raphael started once they were out of earshot. Awful, awkward, like a scene from a particularly vicious reality show. I was going to say, impressive, the way you handled her, Elena. You didn't just defend me, you defended us. You defended what we have. Even though what? Even though you're not sure what we have. Elena looked up at him, seeing something vulnerable in his expression. I'm getting more sure every day. Before Raphael could respond, the lights dimmed and Laura's voice came over the microphone, cutting through the cocktail chatter like a knife through silk. Everyone, thank you so much for celebrating with David and me tonight. I know it's only been 1 month, but when you find the right person, every day feels like a celebration. Scattered applause in a filled room, accompanied by the soft clink of champagne glasses. But tonight isn't just about David and me, Laura continued, her eyes sparkling with the kind of mischief that had gotten them both in trouble in college. We have another celebration to share with all of you. Elena's stomach dropped like a stone. No, Laura wouldn't. She couldn't. They hadn't talked about this, hadn't planned this, hadn't. As many of you know, our dear friends Rafael Moreau and Elena Vasquez have been the talk of the town lately, and tonight, we get to share in their joy as they announce their engagement. The room erupted in applause and cheers that seemed to echo off the windows and reverberate through Elena's bones. She felt like she was having an out-of-body experience as all eyes turned to her and Raphael. As cameras started flashing, as she became the center of attention in a way she'd never wanted or prepared for, somewhere in the crowd, she could see Victoria beaming like the sun itself, Miguel raising his glass with obvious pride, Antonio whooping loud enough to be heard over the applause. Raphael, Elena, come up here, Laura called, her voice bright with excitement and champagne. Share the good news. We have to, Raphael whispered, his voice barely audible over the noise. Everyone's watching. Everyone's expecting. Somehow, Elena's legs carried her to the small stage, where Laura was bouncing with excitement like a child on a sugar high. The microphone was thrust into Raphael's hand, and the room fell silent with the kind of expectant hush that made her skin prickle with anxiety. She could see faces in the crowd. Some familiar, some strange. All watching with the avid interest of people witnessing either a fairy tale or a spectacular crash. Gabriella was near the back, her expression unreadable. Victoria and Miguel were in the front, looking like they were about to burst with pride. Thank you, Laura, Raphael said, his voice steady, despite what Elena knew had to be the chaos of panic and adrenaline coursing through his system. And thank you all for being here to celebrate with us. He turned to Elena, and something in his expression made her breath catch. This wasn't the look of a man playing a role or going through the motions. This was the look of a man about to bare his soul in front of 200 people. "Elena," he said, and his voice carried clearly through the microphone to every corner of the room. "I know this isn't how either of us planned it. I know this is crazy and unexpected, and probably the most terrifying thing either of us has ever done." Elena felt tears starting to form as she realized what he was doing. He was telling the truth in front of everyone, with cameras rolling and society watching. He was choosing honesty over safety. But the thing about the best things in life is that they're never planned. They just happen. Usually when you're least prepared for them. Usually when you've given up on the idea that something that good could be real. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a ring box. Not the one from earlier with the earrings. This was different. Older. More worn around the edges. This was my great-grandmother's ring. She gave it to my great-grandfather after he proposed with a mood ring from a gumball machine because it was all he could afford. And he was too much in love to wait for anything better. Gentle laughter rippled through the crowd, the kind of warm sound that made Elena's heart squeeze. She said, "The ring didn't matter. What mattered was the promise, the choice to build a life together, to face whatever comes as a team, to love each other through all the messy, complicated, beautiful parts of being human." He dropped to one knee, and Elena heard several people gasp, heard someone start crying, probably Antonio. "Elena Vasquez, I'm not asking you to marry the idea of me or the life you think you should want or the person you think you should be. I'm asking you to marry me. The real me, the man who alphabetizes his books and is afraid of butterflies, and who fell in love with you somewhere between that first disastrous kiss and watching you charm my entire family into submission." Elena was crying now, not caring that her makeup was probably ruining or that 300 people were watching her fall apart in real time. "I know this started as something fake," Raphael continued, his voice breaking slightly with emotion. "But Elena, what I feel for you is the realest thing in my life. So, I'm asking you in front of all these people with no more pretending and no more contracts and no more safety nets, will you marry me?" The room was so silent, Elena could hear her own heartbeat, could hear someone's phone buzzing, could hear the distant sound of traffic 40 floors below. Everyone was waiting, cameras were flashing, and the man she loved was kneeling before her, offering everything he had. Time seemed suspended, stretched like taffy. As Elena looked down at Raphael's face, she could see the fear there, the hope, the absolute naked vulnerability of someone who'd just put his heart on the line in the most public way possible. "Yes," she whispered, then cleared her throat and said it louder, strong enough for everyone to hear. "Yes, Raphael. Yes." The room exploded in cheers as Raphael slipped the ring onto her finger, a beautiful Art Deco setting with a diamond that caught the light-captured starlight surrounded by smaller stones that sparkled like promises. He stood and kissed her, and this time, there was nothing fake about it. This was the kiss of two people who had found each other against all odds and decided to stop running from it. When they finally broke apart, Elena was dimly aware of the crowd still cheering, of Laura crying happy tears of Victoria and Miguel making their way through the crowd to embrace them both. "I love you," Raphael whispered against her ear, quiet enough that no microphone could pick it up. "I love you too," she whispered back. "Even your sock organization system, especially my sock organization system," he corrected, making her laugh through her tears. The next hour passed in a blur of congratulations and champagne toasts, of posed photos and excited conversations about wedding plans that didn't exist yet. Elena felt like she was floating, like she was watching someone else's life unfold around her. Victoria hugged her so tightly she could barely breathe, whispering, "Welcome to the family, darling. I knew from the moment I met you." Miguel shook Raphael's hand with obvious pride, then pulled Elena into a bear hug that smelled like expensive cologne and fatherly approval. "Take care of my boy," he said quietly. "He's been through enough, always." Elena promised and meant it. Antonio was openly weeping as he wrapped them both in a group hug that lifted Elena's feet off the ground. "I'm so happy for you guys. You're perfect together. Absolutely perfect." Even cousin Laura managed to tear herself away from her Instagram live stream long enough to squeal with delight and demand to be involved in every aspect of the wedding planning. But through it all, Elena kept catching glimpses of Gabriella standing at the edges of conversations, with an expression that looked like she was watching a play she didn't understand. Later, much later, after they'd accepted countless congratulations and posed for what felt like 1,000 photos, Elena and Raphael escaped to the terrace overlooking Central Park. The October air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of autumn leaves and the distant promise of winter. The city sparkled below them like a fairy tale, all lights and movement and possibility. "So," Elena said, leaning against the railing and trying to process everything that had happened, "we're engaged." "We're engaged," Raphael agreed, coming to stand beside her close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. "How do you feel about that?" "Terrified, excited, happy, like I might throw up from all the adrenaline, like I might start crying again, like I want to call my parents and tell them everything and nothing all at once. That's about how I feel, too. Plus, a little ditzy." Elena looked down at the ring on her finger. It was beautiful. But more than that, it felt right. Like it belonged there. Like it had always belonged there. And she'd just been waiting for someone to notice. "Raphael, can I ask you something? Anything? When did you know? When did it stop being fake for you?" He was quiet for a moment, thinking, his hands resting on the railing next to hers. "Remember that first day we went shopping? When you came out of the fitting room in that green dress? You said I looked perfect. You did, but it wasn't just how you looked, it was the way you stood up straighter when you put it on. Like you were stepping into a version of yourself you'd never let yourself be before, confident, elegant, like you belonged in any room you walked into. And I realized I wanted to be the person who got to see you become that version of yourself every day." Elena felt fresh tears starting. "For me, it was when you met my parents, watching you in my dad's garage, genuinely interested in what he was saying, not just being polite, getting your hands dirty, asking follow-up questions about carburetors like they were the most fascinating things in the world. That's when I knew you weren't pretending anymore. I've never pretended with your family or with you, really. I just stopped fighting what I was feeling." "Speaking of my family," Elena said with a sudden laugh, "I have to call them. They're going to see this on social media before I can tell them myself. My mom is probably already planning my entire wedding." "Actually," Raphael said with a guilty expression that made her stomach flutter, "I may have already called your dad." "You what?" "This afternoon to ask for his blessing. I know it's old-fashioned, but I wanted to do this right. All of it." "What did he say?" "He said he'd been hoping I'd call since the day I helped him change that oil. Apparently, he could tell I was serious about you from the way I listened when he talked about compression ratios." Elena shook her head in amazement. "Is there anyone you haven't told about this?" "Well, I didn't exactly plan it this way. I was going to propose privately, maybe next weekend after I'd worked up the courage, but when Laura put us on the spot," he shrugged. "Sometimes the universe has its own timeline, and the job offer from your parents completely separate from this. I swear they genuinely think you'd be brilliant at it, and they're right. But Elena, if you don't want to work for the family business, if it feels like too much too fast, we'll figure something else out. I don't want you to feel like you have to take it because of us." Elena considered this a week ago. The idea of working with Raphael's family while dating him would have seemed impossibly complicated, like mixing business with pleasure in the most dangerous way possible. Now, it felt like an adventure, like the kind of challenge she'd been preparing for her whole career without realizing it. "Actually," she said slowly, "I think I'd like to try it. Building communities, designing spaces where people can build lives together. It feels right, like something I'm supposed to be doing." Yeah. Besides, someone needs to keep you organized." "Hey, I'm very organized." "You organize your socks by fabric, Raphael. Normal people organize them by color. My way is better, more logical. You'll see." "I'm sure I will. I have the rest of my life to figure out your system." "The rest of your life?" He repeated like he was testing how the words felt. I liked the sound of that. As they stood there laughing and planning and falling more in love with the passing moment, Elena marveled at how completely her life had changed. 2 weeks ago, she'd been a struggling event planner who'd accidentally kissed the wrong man at a wedding. Tonight, she was engaged to that same man, had a job that could change her career, and was surrounded by a family who'd welcomed her with open arms. "Raphael," she said softly. Thank you for what?" "For taking the chance, for asking me to stop pretending, for seeing me, for loving me even when I was too scared to love you back." He turned to face her fully, taking her hands in his, with the kind of careful attention he gave to everything that mattered to him. "Elena, you're the one who saved me. I was so closed off after Gabriella, so afraid of getting hurt again, so convinced that love was just another kind of business transaction. But you made me remember what it felt like to hope for something real. So what happens now?" "Now," he said, spinning her around until she was laughing and dizzy and completely utterly happy. "Now we plan a wedding, a real one with your Batman princess ideas, and my mother's extremely strong opinions about flowers, and probably more drama than any two people should have to handle. That sounds terrifying. It sounds perfect. And as they kissed again under the Manhattan stars, with the sounds of the city and the party flowing around them like music, Elena realized that sometimes the best love stories were the ones that started as something else entirely. Sometimes you had to get lost to find your way home. And sometimes, just sometimes, kissing the wrong man turned out to be the rightest thing you'd ever done. 6 months later, Elena Moreau, she'd kept Vasquez as her middle name for professional purposes, stood in the bridal suite of the Plaza Hotel, adjusting her great-grandmother's pearl necklace for the third time, and trying not to hyperventilate. The suite was a symphony of white and cream and gold with flowers everywhere, peonies and roses and lily of the valley, exactly as Victoria had envisioned during their first wedding planning meeting 6 months ago. "Stop fidgeting," Isabel said, making final adjustments to the train of Elena's dress, with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd wrangled 3 daughters through their own weddings. "You look absolutely radiant." "I feel like I'm going to faint," Elena admitted, taking a shaky breath that did nothing to calm her nerves. "That's completely normal," Victoria said serenely, fastening Elena's veil with the kind of maternal care that made Elena's eyes water. "I threw up twice before my wedding, once in the church bathroom and once in the car on the way to the reception. Nerves are a sign that you're taking this seriously." Through the window, Elena could see Central Park in full spring bloom, exactly as Victoria had envisioned when they'd started planning this day. The ceremony would take place in the conservatory garden, followed by a reception that Elena had spent months planning with the kind of obsessive attention to detail that had made her legendary in New York event planning circles. Every flower had been chosen for meaning. Every detail had been considered and reconsidered. The menu featured dishes from both her family's Brazilian heritage and Raphael's Italian roots. The music would include everything from classical to jazz to the pop songs that had been playing during their first real conversations. "Elena, honey," said a familiar voice from the doorway. Her mother entered, wearing the navy dress they'd chosen together and carrying a small wrapped box with shaking hands. "You have something from Raphael." Inside the box was a pair of butterfly earrings, delicate, beautiful, and utterly perfect. They were white gold with tiny diamonds that caught the light like dewdrops, designed to look like butterflies in flight. The note read, "For my brave butterfly who taught me that the most beautiful things in life are worth conquering your fears for, you make me want to be braver every day. I love you beyond words." "He's comparing you to butterflies," Isabel observed with a grin that was equal parts amusement and affection. "The man who's afraid of butterflies is comparing his bride to butterflies. If that's not love, I don't know what is." As Elena fastened the earrings with trembling fingers, her phone buzzed with a text from Raphael. "Whatever happens today, whatever chaos ensues, whatever family drama unfolds, remember that I'm the luckiest man in the world. Can't wait to call you my wife. Can't wait to start our life together. Can't wait to organize sock drawers with you for the next 60 years. She texted back, "Can't wait to call you my husband. P.S. I reorganized your sock drawer by color while you were at your bachelor party. Consider it a wedding gift." His response was immediate. "I'm marrying a monster. The most beautiful, perfect sock reorganizing monster in the world. I love you." "I love you too," she typed back. "See you at the altar. Try not to trip. No promises. I'm pretty nervous." "Good. Means you're taking this seriously. Taking it very seriously. Taking you very seriously. Taking us very seriously." 20 minutes later, Elena walked down the aisle of the conservatory garden on her father's arm, past 200 guests that included several Moreau employees who'd become genuine friends, her college roommates who'd flown in from around the country, Laura and David looking blissfully happy, and what seemed like half of New York society dressed in their spring finest. The garden was the explosion of color and fragrance, with an arch of white flowers framing the altar, where Raphael waited in a perfectly tailored tuxedo that made him look like something out of a fairy tale. Antonio was crying openly as Raphael's best man, while cousin Laura live-streamed the entire ceremony to her Instagram followers with the kind of professional efficiency that had made her a social media sensation. But Elena only had eyes for Raphael standing at the altar, with his green eyes bright with unshed tears and a smile that could have powered the entire city. When their eyes met across the garden, everything else faded away. The guests, the cameras, the flowers, the pressure. It was just them. Just this moment. Just the promise of everything they were about to become together. When her father placed her hand in Raphael's, he whispered, Take care of my little girl, always, Raphael promised, his voice thick with emotion, and Elena knew he meant it with every fiber of his being. The ceremony was everything they'd dreamed of, personal, meaningful, and thankfully free of any accidental kisses with the wrong person. The officiant was a family friend who'd known Raphael since childhood, and his words about love and commitment and choosing each other every day made everyone cry. When they exchanged vows, Raphael's voice was steady and sure. Elena, you taught me that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who makes you want to be perfect for them. You make me braver, kinder, better. You make me want to organize my socks by color if it makes you happy. Elena's vows were shorter, but no less heartfelt. Raphael, you showed me that the best things in life come from the biggest risks. You're my greatest adventure, my safest harbor, and my favorite person to be lost with. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Raphael's kiss was soft and sure, and full of promises for their future together. It tasted like forever. As they walked back down the aisle as Mr. and Mrs. Moreau, Elena caught sight of Gabriella in the crowd looking beautiful and bitter, in a dress that was probably more expensive than most people's cars. But instead of feeling threatened or angry, Elena felt only gratitude, because without Gabriella's betrayal, Raphael might never have been free to find real love. At the reception, Elena's maid of honor speech included the line, "Some people plan their whole lives around finding the perfect person. Elena found hers by accidentally kissing the wrong one. Sometimes the best mistakes are the ones that lead us exactly where we're supposed to be." The crowd erupted in laughter and applause that seemed to shake the crystal chandeliers. Raphael's best man's speech was shorter, but no less heartfelt. "My nephew found his soulmate by being in the right place at the right time with completely wrong expectations. Sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes watching two people fall in love reminds the rest of us what we're all looking for." The reception was a masterpiece of elegant chaos. Elena had outdone herself with the planning. Every detail was perfect, from the centerpieces that mixed white orchids with eucalyptus to the string quartet that seamlessly transitioned between classical pieces and modern love songs. The food was a celebration of both their heritages, with Italian specialties alongside Brazilian favorites that had the guests raving and asking for recipes. Victoria had insisted on a champagne tower that was photographed from every possible angle, while Miguel gave a toast that had everyone in tears, to Elena and Raphael, who remind us that love doesn't follow rules or timelines. It simply arrives when it's ready in the form it chooses and changes everything. During their first dance to At Last by Etta James, Raphael whispered in Elena's ear, "So, Mrs. Moreau, any regrets?" "Just one," Elena whispered back, swaying in his arms like they'd been dancing together their whole lives. "What's that?" "That I waited so long to reorganize your sock drawer. It was even worse than I thought. I found socks from college. Raphael College. You're never going to let me live that down, are you? Never. It's my job as your wife to lovingly mock your organizational systems while secretly finding them endearing. I love you, Elena Moreau. I love you too, Raphael Moreau. Even your weird sock thing, especially my weird sock thing. Actually, I have a confession," Elena said, as they spun slowly under the twinkling lights. "Should I be worried?" "I've already started organizing them by fabric again. Your system is actually better. I told you so. Don't get smug. I'm still working on the books. Alphabetical is chaos. They should be organized by genre, then author, then publication date. That's actually not a terrible system. I know we're going to be very organized together. The most organized couple in New York, with the most organized sock drawer, and the most organized everything else." As the evening progressed, Elena found herself constantly amazed by how natural it all felt, dancing with her new husband, laughing with her new family, accepting congratulations from friends who'd watched their relationship unfold over the past 6 months. This wasn't the fairy tale wedding she'd dreamed about as a little girl. It was better because it was real. Victoria cornered her near the dessert table, where a towering cake decorated with sugar flowers waited to be cut. "Elena, darling, I wanted you to know how proud Miguel and I are to welcome you into our family. You've brought such joy back into Raphael's life." "He's brought joy into mine too," Elena said, watching her husband laugh at something Antonia was saying. "I never expected to find this." "The best love stories are the unexpected ones," Victoria said, following her gaze. "When Miguel and I met, I was working as a secretary, and he was this intimidating businessman 20 years older than me. Everyone said it would never work, but here we are, 45 years later, still discovering new things about each other. What's the secret?" Choose each other every day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Later, as the reception wound down and guests began to filter out into the New York night, Elena and Raphael found themselves on the terrace, overlooking the park where they'd had their first real conversation about making their relationship real. "Look how far we've come," Elena said, leaning against the railing in her wedding dress, feeling like a princess in the best possible way. "From fake to forever in 6 months," Raphael agreed, loosening his bow tie with a sigh of relief. Not bad for two people who had no idea what they were doing. "I still don't know what I'm doing half the time." "That's okay. We'll figure it out together, starting with our honeymoon in Tuscany." "About that," Elena said with a mischievous smile, "I may have made some adjustments to your packing list." "What kind of adjustments?" "The kind where I organized everything by activity, rather than by type of clothing. Beach clothes together, dinner clothes together, sightseeing clothes together. You reorganized my packing system. I reorganized your entire approach to vacation preparation. You'll thank me when you're not digging through your suitcase looking for matching socks. I was going to bring extra socks, all organized by fabric. I know. I packed them by color. We're compromising." Raphael pulled her close, spinning her around one more time as her dress flared out around them. "I love our compromises. I love our everything. Our everything is pretty great. The best everything." As they kissed under the stars, Elena thought about the journey that had brought them here, from a fake relationship born out of panic and desperation to a real love that had surprised them both with its depth and authenticity. From strangers who'd never learned each other's middle names to husband and wife, who knew each other's organizational systems and middle-of-the-night fears. "Raphael," she said softly. "Yeah, thank you for being brave enough to make it real. Thank you for being brave enough to say yes to fake dating, or to marrying you. Both. All of it. Every yes you've given me." Elena thought about all the yeses that had led them here. Yes to the fake relationship. Yes to meeting his family. Yes to the job offer. Yes to stopping the pretending. Yes to taking the risk. Yes to forever. "I love saying yes to you," she said. "Good," Raphael said, kissing her forehead with the kind of tenderness that made her feel cherished. "Because I plan on asking you a lot more questions over the next 60 years. "What kind of questions? Do you want to have kids? Do you want to travel the world? Do you want to grow old and gray and still argue about sock organization when we're 90? "Yes," Elena said, without hesitation. "Yes to all of it. Even the sock arguments, especially the sock arguments." And as they made their way back inside to say goodbye to their guests and begin their new life together, Elena realized that some stories don't have endings. They just have new beginnings. The kiss that had changed everything had led them here, to this moment, to this love, to this life they were building together, one perfectly imperfect day at a time. In 6 months, they'd gone from strangers to soulmates, from fake to forever, from a business arrangement to the kind of love that poets write about and dreamers believe in. And if someone had told Elena a year ago that she'd find her happily ever after by kissing the wrong man at a wedding, she would have laughed. Now she knew better. Sometimes the wrong man turns out to be exactly the right person you never knew you were looking for. Sometimes the best love stories start with the worst mistakes. And sometimes, just sometimes, fake it till you make it actually works. Epilogue. 1 year later, Elena Moreau sat in her corner office at Moreau Properties, reviewing the community event calendar for their newest development in Brooklyn, when Raphael appeared in her doorway with 2 cups of coffee and that smile that still made her heart skip a beat. "How's the Williamsburg project coming?" he asked, setting her coffee down and perching on the edge of her desk. "Brilliantly. The rooftop garden is going to be featured in Architectural Digest, and we already have a waiting list for the community cooking classes." Elena leaned back in her chair, feeling the satisfaction of work well done. "Your parents were right. This job is perfect for me." "You're perfect for this job," Raphael corrected. "There's a difference. Flatterer husband." He corrected. "It's my job to flatter you." "Now, speaking of jobs," Elena said, opening her desk drawer to pull out a small wrapped box, "I have something for you. It's not my birthday. It's better than your birthday." Raphael opened the box to find a pair of tiny socks. Baby socks organized by color in the smallest organizational system known to mankind. "Elena," he breathed, his eyes going wide. "Are you 8 weeks?" she confirmed, laughing at his expression. "And before you ask, yes, I've already started planning the nursery organization system. We're having a baby. We're having a baby. A baby who will inherit both our organizational obsessions. A baby who will be the most organized baby in New York. Raphael set the box down carefully and pulled Elena into his arms, spinning her around the office as she laughed and protested that people would see them through the glass walls. "I don't care," he said, setting her down and cupping her face in his hands. "I love you, Elena Moreau. I love our life, our work, our perfectly organized chaos. I love you too," she said, standing on her tiptoes to kiss him. "Even if you're going to insist on organizing the baby clothes by fabric, only the socks," he promised. "Everything else can be organized by color. Compromise. The foundation of a good marriage, the foundation of a good everything." And as they stood there in her office, surrounded by the work they loved and the life they'd built together, Elena marveled once again at the journey that had brought them here from fake to real to forever, with a baby on the way, and a love that had surprised them both with its strength and authenticity. Some love stories start with a meet cute. Theirs started with a meet wrong that turned out to be perfectly right, and they were just getting started. The end.